It is. Please bear with me. And just to be frank with you, I need you to bear with me this evening. It's been one of those days, man. Just been one of those days. TCU guest that we were efforting and anticipated being here could not make it. And then Terrence let me know this morning that he couldn't make it because he's got tryouts with his kiddos. He didn't tell me which sport they're trying out in. I'll assume basketball or baseball. Maybe we're about to start a little basketball season in that youth kind of sports age. But I hope Terrence is doing well. He'll be back with us next week as always. Man, Scotty B already with the lead. Yeah, I know that this is a Baylor football podcast, but it is crazy that James Franklin got fired today. And I have kind of mixed reactions to that. On one hand, I do think he's probably a top 10 coach in the sport. Anybody that Penn State may hire won't necessarily be an upgrade. It just kind of depends on how that hiring process goes. At the same time, man, that's how you do it. Like, there's part of me that admires the quick trigger for a program that's been this close. I mean, right kind of under that national title hunt. They've never truly been in it, but they've been right there. They were in the semifinal last year. And to be right there in the thick of it and lose to all these ranked teams the way that Franklin consistently did, I kind of admire the quick trigger by Penn State. You gave Franklin many years. It's well integrated into his philosophy and scheming and recruiting at this point. And to be 3-3 in a year that you opened the season number 2 and really, guys, like 2 unacceptable losses for that program back to back. UCLA won big again yesterday, so they've maybe found their mojo, but still not a team that should have beaten a power like Penn State. And then Northwestern, certainly not a team that should be beating a power like Penn State. So just a wild day in college football yesterday. And this coaching carousel this offseason is going to be crazy. And yes, Bobby B, I put out the tweet on my own Twitter as well. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out Matt Rule is talking to his agent today, has probably already tried to get on the phone with the administration at Penn State with his interest. He won't say that. He won't tell Nebraska that. But the bottom line is, I think Matt Rule learned leaving Baylor that the NFL is not a fit for him, clearly. I think he'd probably be content to stay at Nebraska a pretty long time, contrary to his track record, except for this job. We all know this is his dream job. He holds Joe Paterno in a very high esteem. He played for Joe Pa at Penn State. It's his alma mater. By the way, the alma mater factor is real, right? There's a reason Gundy was at Oklahoma State for so long and was never really interested in going anywhere else. Like, when you play football somewhere and you get to go back and coach there, you're going to be really freaking loyal to that brand. No doubt. Nobody, I think in their right mind, would blame Rule for wanting that job. My question for Penn State would be, do you hire Rule when he is essentially a less accomplished James Franklin? And a lot of you watching know how I feel about Matt Rule. I love him. I think he's a tremendous coach. Love what he did at Baylor. But he has all the same flaws James Franklin had, which is he's a rah-rah guy. Players like him. He's a motivational guy. He says all the right things at the microphone. He's very likable, but he loses ranked games pretty consistently. He has struggled so far in his career to get teams to overperform against ranked opponents. Unlike Kurt Cignetti, who I'm now convinced might be the best coach in college football. He's now 17-2 at Indiana, including a win over what were they yesterday? 2 or 3, Oregon. I watched that whole game. Wild. Certainly Penn State is calling Coach Sig, I bet, this week. And we'll see if Coach Sig wants to keep building a dynasty at Indiana, which would be just college football Hall of Fame stuff, or if he wants to take on the big school. And, we'll see. I bet Penn State calls Dabo. I bet Penn State, I think Golish at USF is getting some buzz. I saw Brent Key on a list, the Georgia Tech head coach. I'm a big fan of what they're doing there at Georgia Tech. That could be an intriguing hire. I almost wonder, though, if getting Franklin from Vanderbilt feels too similar to getting Brent Key for Georgia Tech, although they are very different styles of coach. Anyway, yeah, didn't mean to spend 6 minutes opening the pod with Penn State news, but it is the news of the day in college football. There's going to be more shakeup this season. I don't think James Franklin will be the last coach fired, and maybe even surprisingly so. Bobby B says, Gundy, I'd be shocked if Penn State calls Gundy. You guys know I like him a lot, and I think he should get an opportunity to coach again, and if he has a strong GM. But that doesn't feel like a culture fit to me. Gundy has spent so long in Oklahoma now. I almost think the schools in proximity in Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, that's where he's going to get some phone calls, I think, real quick to go be a consultant or an OC. Yeah, Scotty B says Gundy more of a coordinator now. I don't know. He might. I'd be shocked if he's not a head coach again, because he's a darn good head coach. But y'all know how I feel. I think if Spavital were to leave Baylor and Aranda were to stay, I think Gundy should be the very first highest priority phone call for a new OC for Baylor. But that's enough about that. That's all speculation, good fodder for a podcast. But I'm here pretty briefly tonight. Like I said, Terrence is out tonight. Our TCU guest couldn't make it after all. So I'm a little deflated. But what I wanted to present is we did have a wild day in college football yesterday. And I want to show you the Big 12 standings and remind you of Baylor's schedule coming up. Because for as much pain as we've kind of experienced as Baylor fans and frustration with the way the defense performs or the way that this team gets up in first quarters of big games, we've talked about all that crap ad nauseum, right? But as much as we talk about that, Baylor's 4-2 and 7-1 in their last 8 conference games. You can't dismiss that offhand. And so I do want to show you the conference standings. Let me go ahead and throw those up here, because Baylor fully and completely, after yesterday, controls its own destiny. Baylor fully and completely controls its own destiny, and here's why. Baylor does not have to play BYU or Texas Tech, top 2 teams in the league. Texas Tech, again, looking like I keep expecting them to drop one. I thought Kansas might put up a better fight. But Tech is looking like, as advertised, the best team in the conference. That Cody Campbell money is doing what it's supposed to do. They're ranked top 10. Hey, Mitch, I appreciate the come on, man, but you could give me a more specific comment and maybe I'll reply. Otherwise, keep listening. We'll chat. Yeah, Texas Tech looking like the class of the conference so far this season. But they do play BYU. So I had it pulled up a second ago. I think I closed it. Let me see when that game is. Texas Tech v. BYU is November 8th. So in about a month, Tech and BYU play. I doubt both teams make it to that game undefeated in conference, but if they do, that's a loss for one of them. And if one or both of these teams lose in the next month, then that's 2 losses in conference for them. I believe both of these teams also have to face Cincinnati. Let me verify that really quickly. Let's look at Cincinnati's remaining schedule, who is also undefeated in conference play. Cincinnati has to, not Tech. Okay, so Cincinnati does not face Tech, but they do face BYU. And they've also got Utah and Arizona left on their schedule, as well as Baylor. I want you to look at the teams above Baylor in the rankings. Baylor has already lost to Arizona State, but Arizona State just dropped that game to Utah. I don't know that Arizona State gets through unscathed without another loss. It would surprise me if Arizona State doesn't pick up another loss along the way. Let's look at their remaining schedule real quick. You know, if I were mega professional, I would have had all these schedules pulled up. Yeah, dude, Arizona State's got Tech this coming weekend. They've also got Iowa State, Colorado, and Arizona left in their schedule. There's no way Arizona State gets through the rest of the year without another loss. Oh, I see, Mitch. You don't think Baylor controls their own destiny. Well, let me finish talking, and you'll see that they actually really do. So Baylor doesn't have to face BYU or Tech. Every other team above them in the standings now, they do face. So here's where Baylor totally won yesterday. They won the bye week. Is Iowa State lost yesterday? Shocker. That was against Colorado, right? Yeah. So Colorado, Iowa State has gone into free fall, losing to Cincinnati and now Colorado. So Baylor jumps Iowa State, who 2 weeks ago looked like a better team and was second basically in the conference, right next to Tech, right? Iowa State has dropped off, 2 losses there. You can see Kansas and Kansas State there at 2-2. TCU is that next team under Kansas State. They're 1-2 in conference play. Baylor has an opportunity to beat them. So every team above Baylor, here they are. BYU, Baylor does not have to face. Tech, Baylor does not have to face. Thank you, schedule makers. Cincinnati, Baylor faces in 2 weeks on the road. Huge game. I keep thinking Cincinnati's not that legit, and they keep pulling out these wins. Not usually by very impressive margins, but Sorsby's legit. You know, they're playing well. And it's on the road. Okay. Utah. I believe they come to Waco late in November. Arizona State. Baylor already lost. But again, Arizona State's playing Tech this weekend. I know anything can happen in college football, as we learned the last 2 weeks. Let's just forecast here. Arizona State drops that game to Tech. Baylor jumps them. Houston, tied with Baylor at 2-1 in conference. Houston comes to Waco. That should be a Baylor win. Mind you, Baylor's also got UCF left on the schedule for homecoming. That should be a 20-point win. This is why Baylor controls its own destiny. Even if you're skeptical of Baylor's ability to win out, if Baylor wins out, they will have 1 loss in conference play. The likelihood of winning out is starting to get better and better as we see the rest of these teams play, because Baylor does not have to face BYU or Texas Tech, right? So if Baylor wins out, which we saw them do it last season at this point, right? I'm not saying Vegas would say that Baylor will. I'm saying it happened last season. If Baylor wins out, finishes the season 10-2, I think it is highly likely they're straight into the conference game. It's a conference title game. The scenario that would be interesting, and I'd have to look up the conference rules, is if BYU's only loss is to Tech, and BYU also finishes 7-1 or 9-1, excuse me, or 8-1. I can't count. 8-1 in conference play. If BYU finishes 8-1 in conference play, and Baylor finishes 8-1 in conference play, I don't know how that tiebreaker would work. And that's where maybe Baylor could win out and miss the title game. But if I were betting on it, y'all, I think BYU is going to drop 2 games. I think Tech's going to drop a game, but they might not. So Baylor just needs to beat Cincinnati, Utah, and Houston, win the game they're supposed to win, UCF, and it's looking really good. Kansas, I think, also left on the schedule. Let's look at the rest of Baylor's schedule. So it's TCU's the big game this weekend. We'll talk about that here to conclude. Yeah, no Kansas. So it's TCU. TCU, we rated them, I think, higher a few weeks ago in our minds. They were even ranked, I believe, there for a week in the AP Top 25 because they blew out North Carolina. Well, we've learned since North Carolina is probably the most dysfunctional football program in America. And other than that, TCU's looked poor. They've looked poor against good teams. They just lost to Kansas State, who Baylor just beat. And Baylor was the far superior team, too, by the way, in that game, and really didn't turn it on until the fourth quarter. So Baylor faces TCU on the road and then Cincinnati on the road. You gotta win those two games, obviously. I'm feeling much better about TCU today than I did before the game yesterday, as you can imagine. Cincinnati, that'll be a test. We'll know a lot after that. UCF at home, 20-point victory. Utah at home, you better win. Dampier's a guy that can beat you, but that is where you'll have an opportunity, again, to kind of overcome that stigma that you can't beat big teams at home. Then you're on the road at Arizona. That'll be a test. But I think we learned this week that Arizona is a little more vulnerable than we thought, right? And then we conclude with Houston at home. If Baylor walks into that Houston game and is taking care of business here, and they're 9-2, they'll wipe Houston off the floor. I have very little doubt in that. Baylor still got quite a talent jump over Houston. Houston will catch up in the next 2 years, I think, but not yet. So I say all that to say, yesterday's bye week was a win for Baylor. I think Baylor completely controls its own destiny now with the way that the chips are falling. But Baylor cannot afford to lose a conference game again because Bobby B says, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. That's hilarious. Thanks, Bobby B. Scotty B, I'm not going to throw up all your tiebreaker comments, but if you're on YouTube and you see Scotty B commenting the tiebreakers, that's good info I was asking for. Thank you, Scotty B. If you're watching on X, go subscribe. Please bear with me on YouTube. You can jump in the live chat. I like to read these comments, especially when I'm flying solo today. Throw in your comments. I'll be here about 15 more minutes, and then we'll get out of here for the night. Baylor controls its own destiny, and it starts this week against TCU. Our perception of TCU today is radically different than it was 2 weeks ago. Our perception of Josh Hoover today, I think NFL scouts' impression of Josh Hoover today is radically different. Josh Hoover against Arizona State and now against Kansas State has proven to be a little bit of a liability, and I think he's a good player. I mean, I had him ranked, I think, third best quarterback in the conference when we did quarterback rankings on the Pete Souza show. So I think Hoover's a really good player with good skill set. But he's been a liability in these big games. He's turning the ball over. Conversely, Baylor has struggled to force turnovers. I think the pick 6 by Jacob Redding against Kansas State was Baylor's first forced turnover in 3 games, including against Oklahoma State. Not great. So you're going to have to find a way to force some turnovers against Josh Hoover. He will throw you the football, but you got to be in position to do that, right? I think the criticisms of this Baylor defense, and especially the defensive backfield, have been big plays, like giving up big plays, and then like giving up 15-yard penalties at the end of crucial games. And man, if you can be in position and play disciplined football, you're gonna get a football thrown to you at this point by Hoover. It is on the road, and I think because it's TCU, I think anybody can win that football game. Anybody can win that football game any year. I don't love that it's in Fort Worth, and yet we've talked about this particular group under this particular head coach seems to get up better for road games than home games. So I think I might actually be more nervous if TCU was coming to Waco this weekend. I think I actually feel better, weirdly enough, about the fact that we're going on the road after a bye week. I think that really helps. Really counting on the defense to force some turnovers against this TCU team that is way Hoover reliant, and Hoover is way turnover prone. Offensively, you just have to play your dadgum game this Saturday, right? I still believe we're halfway through the season, and I still believe Baylor's offense is capable of being a top 3 or 4 offense in America. And maybe I'm Delulu for that. But we've seen glimpses and we've seen quarters where I think that's the case. We haven't seen many wire-to-wire full game performances where that's clearly the case. And so I want to see Baylor come out aggressive on offense. I want to see a dedication to the run game with Bryson Washington. And I want to see a willingness to take shots down the field. You've got Cole Wilson, Kobe Prentice, Josh Cameron, and Ashton freaking Hawkins. Those are your top 4 receivers. All 4 of them are capable of getting open downfield, outrunning people downfield. And I don't know about Cole, but at least for Ashton and Josh, those are like not huge receivers who can go up and high point a football and moss a defender just as well as anybody. So I want to see Baylor throw it deep, run the football, and really stop holding back on this offense. I think a lot of us, storyline of since the Auburn game, right? I think I'd like to see the quarterback run implemented. I think I'd like to see some read option, some quarterback power. I don't think we need Sawyer to carry it 10 times a game, but maybe 4 or 5, and not just because he's rolling out and he's got space. Like I think we need, and that's where I'm a little frustrated. Dave and Spav had that quote a couple weeks ago about, we're yelling at Sawyer to run. I'm like, you could actually call the play though. Like there are designed quarterback runs. In fact, 2 of Sawyer's like greatest runs last season were those draws right up the middle, designed. So I think we need to see that. This TCU team is not good. I think Sonny Dykes, especially if Baylor goes in there and wins this week and they finish with 6 or 7 wins, as it looks like they might at TCU, I think Sonny Dykes could be on the hot seat. Don't know that he'll get fired. He did take them to a national championship a few years ago. But I think he could be on the hot seat. Wouldn't surprise me. Conversely, and I hesitate to say this out loud because I know I feel like we've talked about Dave Aranda ad nauseum. If Baylor goes 0-2 on this road trip to TCU in Cincinnati, he could see the hot seat. I'm hearing from sources that I trust that Mack Rhoades is quite a bit more assertive and disappointed in the football performance behind the scenes than he appears to be out front. And I think that's good, by the way. I don't want my AD showing like doubt or disappointment publicly. I want those conversations to happen behind closed doors, and at least somewhat they are. I don't know that it's like a you're getting fired if kind of conversation, but I know it's there's got to be improvement, man. Like, 8-4 last year was pretty remarkable given how the season started, but we can't go 8-4 again. Like, not when the whole roster came back, Cynical Bear says, so I'm not crazy. You're not crazy, Cynical Bear. There's, we have a great AD at Baylor. I will say, just to get off the TCU thing for a second, and something I was really delighted about yesterday, we got that commit from the 4-star 27 kid, Hoyt. Let me pull up his Carice Hoyt. Number 12 athlete recruit in America. 6'2", 200 pounds. All-state MVP, Lone Star High School. He has played quarterback, running back, receiver, and safety for them. Likely that he would be playing on the offensive side of the ball at Baylor. He picked Baylor over Penn State, Oregon, Texas A&M. That's remarkable. I put out a tweet yesterday just kind of putting the skill offensive players that Aranda's been able to recruit in last year's class, this year's class, and the 27 class in a tweet together. Quinn Murphy, Caden Knighton, Michael Turner, Jordan Clay, Taz Williams, London Smith, and now this Hoyt kid. Art Briles would occasionally get like 2 players of that caliber. Robbie Rhodes was the highest ranked receiver Baylor's ever recruited. Obviously, we know that didn't work out. Corey Coleman was a very highly rated 4-star recruit. But Art Briles, most of his great players weren't this caliber of recruit. Matt Rule, honestly, same thing. There was a couple. Taekwon, I think, was a 4-star. But I don't think any of Matt Rule's running backs were. None of Briles' running backs were. They were mostly 2-stars. Murphy is not as highly rated as like Jarrett Stidham was. Jarrett Stidham is the highest rated quarterback we've ever recruited. I think Sawyer was higher also coming out of high school, but I think that's it. I think Quinn Murphy might come in as like the third highest ranked high school quarterback Baylor's ever recruited, depending on which ranking site you look at. And I say all that to say, I think all of us need to get our minds around. I love it, Cynical Bear. I love it. I see what you said there. I think all of us need to get our minds around if this team goes into the final weekend with a shot to make the Big 12 title game. So that would include last year, right? Technically, Baylor had a scenario going into the final week against Oklahoma State. It wasn't Oklahoma State. Who did we play in the last game? I don't remember. Baylor technically had a shot to make the title game, but it was like a really long shot that needed like 7 weird things to happen. I think if that happens again this year, and this entire 26 class, again, Jamarian Carlton, top 5 recruit Baylor's ever had commit. Jamarian Vincent, London Smith, Jordan Clay, Quinn Murphy. If you keep that core recruiting class together, it will be the best recruiting class Baylor's ever signed. And if those guys are committed to Dave Aranda, even though Baylor wins 8 or 9 games, again, this is all hypothetical, you have to keep this staff. You have to. And it is a credit, a tremendous credit, not just to Keenan Hall and Aaron Hunt and Matt Powledge and Dallas Baker, who we know are all really elite recruiters. All those, Spavital even has been a great recruiter for us. You have to credit Dave Aranda. Dave Aranda this year in front of our eyes is becoming the best recruiting head coach Baylor's ever had. And I do understand that needs to translate into wins. That does need to translate into conference titles. I think that's the standard Baylor needs to hold itself to, is regular competition for conference titles. That's what we've been at our peak under Taff, under Briles, under Rule, under Aranda. And so I think that needs to be the standard. But he is doing something so right. And when that 4-star Hoyt, I mean, he's a top 250 player in the nation. He could go even higher after this season. If kids like that keep wanting to play at Baylor, you got to keep this staff together. And you got to give them an opportunity to get those kids in here. I know some people would believe that high school recruiting is less important than ever because of the transfer portal and NIL. I disagree. I think it's the opposite. I think if you can get some buy-in from some of the best high school players in Texas early, get them to commit to your school, get them on campus at 18, I think that's a tremendous value for your program, even with the transfer portal. I think that's how great programs are going to continue to be built despite the transfer portal. So, yeah, big news yesterday with Hoyt committing to Baylor. Good news. Brian Horn wanted me to bring something up. Hey, Brian, hope you're watching because I'm going to mention it. There was, now that I've been Mr. Positive, I'll be Mr. Negative for a second. There was a tweet from a Baylor player yesterday, or maybe it was this morning. Let me pull it up. And I'm not going to post it because I wasn't prepared to, but I'll pull it up just so I get it right. I definitely follow him. There he is. Yeah, Taz Williams, who is one of Baylor's really, really bright prospects. It was 8 hours ago, so it was this morning that he posted this. And let me just be clear. Taz is a Baylor Bear. October 8th, so 4 days ago, he retweeted a graphic of Sawyer and Michael Trigg and said, best in the nation. So I think he loves Baylor. I think he loves Spav. I think he loves playing in this offense. I think he sees the potential that all of us see. 8 hours ago, he tweeted student section with 2 fire emojis. He was retweeting Robert Griffin. So again, Baylor Bear, right? Showing what Texas Tech's student section looked like, completely full 2 hours before kickoff. That can obviously skew one of two ways. Either Taz wants Baylor students and fans to see that and go, oh, we can do that and show out. Or Taz is somewhat venting in a subversive, passive-aggressive way of frustration with the fan atmosphere this season. And by the way, both feelings are valid. But it is a weird look. And Brian wanted me to ask Terrence how Terrence felt about it. I might swap that privately with Terrence. Again, Terrence Ganaway not with us tonight. He's busy doing something with his kids, which is great. Listen, I've said this, I think, on multiple occasions, but just in case you don't know me, I am so in favor of a football environment where fans stand up and get rowdy and get loud, show up early, stay late, don't leave no matter what. I was raised that way. I support Baylor that way. And yeah, we have to acknowledge that's not the culture at Baylor football. But what we also know is that when Baylor football wins, the fans do show out and the fans do get loud. So I don't want to talk about this for 2 more weeks, but I think in 2 weeks, if Baylor's 6-2, hypothetically, go get a road win against your biggest rival, go get a road win against ranked Cincinnati. That will squarely place Baylor likely in the top 4 in the conference, right there in the conference title hunt. Homecoming is the next game against UCF. That is when we show the heck up. And I would look at students, and I would look at alum, and I would look at out-of-towners since it's homecoming, and I would look at myself, and I would say, let's get to that stadium and get rowdy. And it is just UCF. It's not going to be that exciting of an opponent. But you might come and see a 30-point, 20-point home win. That's fun. Can we do that? And then if you do that and you have momentum and you're 7-2, you really need the fans to show up because the next home game is Utah. That's a team that's also hunting for the Big 12 title. It's important. It's important we show up and cheer. I don't think I'm a bad communicator or fan for telling you should show up and cheer. You should be loud. We all have lives. Things happen. You're not a bad Baylor fan if you don't. But if you can afford it, if you can put the time in, if you're in Waco, you should come to the game and be loud. It does make a difference. I would hate to see Taz Williams transfer because students didn't show up for a free ticket for a football game. I would hate to see 4-star recruits stop committing to Baylor because the atmosphere sucks. That is on us. Yes, it's on Coach Aranda to win the football games. But if Baylor's 6-2 coming back to town in 2 weeks and we don't show up and get loud, that's on us. That's on us. Like 6-2 is a dadgum good record in this age of college football, in this conference for this team. I'm not happy about the losses to Auburn and Arizona State. I'm not. But I'm a Baylor Bear, so I'll be there and I'll be loud. And I hope you'll think about it too. Let's see if we beat TC this week. Okay. So I'm about to duck out of here. I'm watching for any final comments. If anybody has a question or kind of final word, I'll give it about 5 more minutes. Tim Watkins texted me. He thinks Hoyt will play defense for us. I'm a heart that text. Tim Watkins was outstanding here 2 weeks ago. If you missed that episode, please bear with me. You should go check it out. So he thinks he'll play defense. Maybe he'll play both ways. Frankly, I would love it if Baylor got Hoyt and Cooper Witten. I really want Cooper Witten in that 27 class and let them play both ways. I don't think it's weird anymore if you play 10 plays on one side of the ball, if your primary position's on the other. These kids are talented. Travis Hunter kind of broke the mold, reminded us of when Deion Sanders used to do that, Pac-Man Jones used to do that. Like, I do it in college football 26. If I've got a cornerback with great speed, put him at receiver for 2 plays a game. Like, why not? We've got some, I feel like this is going to be the rest of the season, by the way. We've got some combating comments in the live chat about it's stupid to fire Dave. It's stupid to keep Dave. Like, I'm kind of over the Dave conversation right now. I'll just be honest with you. We got a big game this Saturday against a rival. Let's go freaking win it. And then we got a big game on the road against a ranked team. Let's go freaking win it. And if you win it and you're 6-2 and these recruiting classes are stacking up, Dave's doing his job. It may be hard. It may be stressful. There are definitely questions about this football team. Don't get me wrong. This team has definitely underperformed, especially against Arizona State. Don't get me wrong. But results are results. The recruiting results, the results on the field. Dave is doing something and probably a lot of things really, really right. Scotty B's right. Let the season play out. We'll know how we feel about Dave Aranda depending on the record at the end of the season and what that class looks like, depending on that record, right? There are scenarios in which this team is playing in Arlington and scenarios in which we're ready to move on. And both are feasible at this point. That's what makes this sport so fun, y'all. It is unpredictable. I think Baylor goes to TCU and gets a win. Put me on the record. I think Hoover is showing that he is a little overrated. Baylor coming off a bye on the road. Those both work in Baylor's favor at this point under Coach Aranda. I'm really still so highly confident in Sawyer and this offense and their ability to score on anybody. So give me Baylor to win Saturday. We will be back next week, 5:00 live, posted afterward on podcast platforms. Terrence will be back. We'll react to the TCU game and look forward to Cincinnati. By the way, Green and Gold Game Day, our pregame show, will be 2 hours ahead of kickoff starting at 9 a.m. and we'll be live in Fort Worth. We will be there. We are not going to every road game this season, but we thought it was worth the effort to get to Fort Worth for the rivalry game. So I'd love to see you there. I'll let you know more details as we get closer. Make sure to go subscribe to Green and Gold Game Day on YouTube. It's our 2-hour pregame show. We got a lot planned. We're efforting some cool things this week on the Mosley Show and the Pete Souza Show. Again, all of this is part of the Rogue Media Network. I'd love for you to be part of the family. Come jump in with us every day. Pete Souza, Matt Mosley. Saturdays, we do the pregame show, Green and Gold Game Day. That's Matt Mosley, Faith Lynch, and myself. And then we'll be back next Sunday with Please Bear With Me. You've got Baylor content every day of the week on Rogue Media. By the way, this show and many of our shows on Rogue Media are supported by, where's the Pope? There it is. Gather & Co. Kitchen and Bath. My friend Kelly Falkenberry, they've been in the business a long time. You can trust them with your remodel. Right now, they're doing a lot of outdoor spaces, patios, tailgate. They call it the tailgate. Get outside, cook outside, watch football outside. The weather's getting cool. It's getting nice in the mornings. It's about to be nice all day. Call them if you want to get that done. They do bathrooms. They do kitchens. They remodel. Dude, just call them. Even if you're like, I don't know if I can afford it. I don't know if give me some ideas. They are so great, easy to work with, wonderful, godly people. I love them. I'm so bad at this. There it is. Gather & Co. Kitchen and Bath. Thanks for sponsoring. Please bear with me. Thanks for the lively chat in the comments. I really appreciate it. Subscribe, hit that notification bell. We'll go live again next Sunday night at 5:00. Big game Saturday, man. Let's get excited. It's rivalry. It will always be the Revivalry, not the Bluebonnet game. My name's Scotty Swingler. We're on Rogue Media Network. I'll see you this week on the Pete Souza Show, the Matt Mosley Show, Green and Gold Game Day, and next week, 5:00, right here. Please bear with me. Terrence Ganaway will be back. Appreciate all you guys. Talk to you next time.